Hello, my name is Raul Lerma, and today I'm going to be showing you the portrayal of anxiety disorders in Batman Begins. Now, we're going to be talking about Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the main protagonist of the film Batman Begins. Bruce Wayne is the son of Thomas and Martha Wayne, who were tragically killed in an alleyway while Bruce was still a child. This movie takes place in Gotham, a metropolis-like city that has many reflections to real-world cities like New York City and Chicago, only with hints of corruptions due to the evil organizations that are growing throughout the film. Now, in the film, Gotham is a city that runs with crime, which in turn creates fear within the residents of Gotham. Bruce Wayne's fear, or that of phobia, is that of bats, but instead of fearing them, he uses it as a form of strength, thus becoming the Batman. Now, early in the film, when Bruce Wayne was playing with Rachel, with hide-and-go-seek, Bruce Wayne was running around and fell in a well. While he was down there in the well, he managed to injure his legs, which restricted his movements. While he was down there, a swarm of bats decided to swarm Bruce Wayne, and this has been a traumatic experience for Bruce Wayne. Such an experience, even after the events, he still became quite fearful of them, even when he becomes an adult. Now, this could be classified as an anxiety disorder, specifically that of a specific phobia. His specific phobia was that of bats. Specific phobia is defined to be a persistent fear that activates when under the presence of that specific object. Now, based on the cinema's cultural context, having a person, as Bruce Wayne, containing an anxiety disorder will be played down and be treated as something that the individual will move on from, thus creating the disorder with little to no solemnity, classifying the situation as an irrational fear of bats. Now, for our culture in the real world, the stigmas that are associated with this disorder is belief that the individual's fear is just that, fear. Something that can be overcome. Now, throughout the film, the audience has been given an abundance of evidence to classify Bruce Wayne's symptoms. The first one is the fear of physical presence. Now, this is defined to be an abnormal response to a specific phobia when placed under the presence of that object. Such responses are sweating, discomfort, and a feeling of danger. The first example of this in the film is when Bruce was in the opera and pleaded to his parents to leave due to the presence of the bats in the opera. Now, due to the presence of the bats, Bruce is reminded of his experiences and begins to feel immediate discomfort and feelings of danger, and wanted to avoid the experience altogether. The second system that I would like to talk about is persistence. Now, by continuously avoiding his fear, the individual begins to fear the specific object more and more as time goes on. Now, throughout the film, Bruce Wayne, who even though he's an adult, he still fears bats. When he goes back down to the well to confront his fears, and when he reaches the bottom of the well, he stares up and begins to dwindle with hesitation. And later on, when he does eventually confront the bats, he begins to duck down into a fetal position in order to defend himself from the bats. The weakest system is that some of these systems can be relegated to that of agoraphobia, though it much better fits that of a specific phobia. Now, I propose a treatment plan for Bruce Wayne. I would like this plan to be taking place right after he comes up from the well and decides to share his experiences of him and the bats. I would offer a therapy session for Bruce Wayne. Have Bruce Wayne work out with his phobia of bats in a pace that will make him feel much more comfortable with the exposure of bats. He will likely receive safety and supervision from his guardians and the therapist. A few ethical concerns will be that Bruce would have to open up about his phobia in the first place. Now, recalling past experiences about the events may cause Bruce to recall the fear that was played on him. This, of course, is a minor setback, and once he manages to let it out, he would be able to start the treatment. Some barriers that would initialize would be the societal barriers, since the Wayne family is quite prestigious. Having someone like their son be afraid of bats, something so trivial, could perhaps make people look down on poor Bruce Wayne. Now, after viewing the film twice, once when I was younger, and now, living years after, I do think that the film did proper justice on what anxiety disorder really is. Throughout the film, it has been shown that Bruce Wayne has had a hard time dealing with bats, even after the events of the well. Whenever he confronts a bat, he begins to shut down and shows extreme discomfort and desire to run away from the situation. This film, the portrayal of the disorders in this film helps us have a much more deeper understanding of human fear and what can be considered as temporary fear or genuine phobia of an object. It is best to consider early fears as something much more, and if we don't, that phobia will start to accumulate and eventually ruin the lives of the individuals who are victims of the disorder.